Hello folks, and welcome to Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for this, the inaugural round of the 2022 Formula One World Championship. And I've got to say, it feels great to be back. As is tradition, there is something of an air of a first day back at school on arrival here. But it's more than that, because the new era of Formula One has arrived. And with it, the eagerly anticipated new car regulations, which have been designed to help promote better racing. With clean sculpted lines, swooping rear and front wings, which should allow cars to follow each other more closely, new eye-catching 18-inch low-profile tyres, the return of ground effect, and a reduction of aerodynamic physical adornments, the new cars look strikingly different, all while improving safety and pushing the limit of technical ingenuity. So then, which teams have interpreted the rules most effectively, and which drivers will adapt to their new car the quickest, leading the charge against the rest of the pack? Only time will tell. As always, we can't wait for this season to begin, but for now, from us, that's your lot.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to F1 22. It feels strange to be going back to this game, but now that we've got Le Mans out of the way, we can finally get into what the driver career series was, I suppose, meant to be originally. We're back with AlphaTauri for another season. In season 2020, we took them from the mid-pack to a front-running team, and even, I think, scored a few race victories, myself and Daniel Kvyat, that season. But now in the 2022 regs, we've got work to do. So let's start with something very basic. We have a little bit of money to spend on a driver perk, so we're going to just get the development feedback. It's the most beneficial to the team. But here is the R&D chart, the all-important order of how fast we can expect each team to be. Ferrari are at the top ahead of Red Bull, bit of a gap then to Mercedes, and then of course a gap to everyone else, but it's Alfa Romeo who lead the midfield. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out on track, ahead of McLaren, Alpine, ourselves at AlphaTauri, Haas, Aston Martin, and then Williams rounding off the grid. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that translates on track. Means we're looking at about P13 and 14, assuming no issues for the cars ahead, so we have plenty of work to do this season. So in terms of R&D, we can do a little bit before the season gets underway. Improved energy store cells, a minor weight reduction upgrade should be on in time for the Bahrain Grand Prix. And then on the power unit side, we'll do the engine cylinder head upgrade for more power. And then still before the weekend arrives, we get a few more resource points to play around with. So we're going to do our very first Venturi tunnels upgrade. Bit more rear downforce. We could rush it in time for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to do the standard development, and hopefully there'll be a high chance of it being on the car in time for Melbourne.
I know we were expecting some new developments to come through, but some of them have failed quality control. We'll need to tell the team what to redevelop via the R&D screen.
And our cylinder heads upgrade failed, so we may be lacking a little bit of power to what we might have been expecting. But anyway, unfortunately that's just how it is. We did get the weight reduction upgrade though, so that is all fine. We'll redevelop the power upgrade, and it'll be on the car in time for Melbourne as well. So hopefully that's a good sign that we should have a good, or a better car for the third round of the championship. But yeah, these first two, we might struggle for points, but hopefully we can build up pretty quickly, because we're not too far off the mark. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But without further ado, I think it's time we get into it. Oh, and one more thing quickly. One thing I never really do usually is look at the tyre allocation, because we can actually move around exactly when we're going to use the different compounds of tyres. We can actually save a set of hards, or an additional set of hards for the race. We're already basically forced to have one set of mediums and one set of hards, but we can move mediums and hards into our qualifying pool, which will essentially give them to us in the race. So Given that I'm not really expecting to get into Q3 anyway, we're probably not going to need that third set of soft compound tyres, or if we do, it'll just be to improve in Q2 perhaps. So basically what I'm getting at is we don't really have anything to lose by going with the harder tyre allocation, saving that set of hards. I doubt we'll need 2 sets of hards in the race, but it might just come in handy, so that's what we're going to do.
Good morning and welcome to the team. I'm Ethan. I head up the R&D here. I'd love to stay and chat, but we've got a race to win. You'll find everything you need at your desk. Give us a shout if you need anything else.
Rightio, Ethan.
So this first race of the season is always quite difficult for us trackside and for those back at the factory as well, as it's the first time the car has run since winter testing. The more consistent mileage you can get in these sessions, the happier we'll be.
Righto, Mark. So, it is finally time then.
There'll be a lack of rubber out on track, so take it easy for the first couple of laps.
To be honest, we're only just over 6 minutes into the video. Not too bad for an episode 1 to actually get a car on circuit. And yeah, we'll get practice underway. Of course, we're not going to be showing too much of practice anyway, because it's not particularly interesting. But we hammer through all of the practice programs with relative ease. There was nothing particularly challenging given to us this time, other than driving in a straight line there. Apparently I was having
great lap, you nailed exactly what we asked for. Keep it up.
Having difficulties with that, but yeah, between myself and Sonoda we hauled in a bunch of resource points, and we'll be able to spend those after the race weekend. Got a few discounts as well on future upgrades, so yeah, we are all good, and yeah, we are ready to get into the weekend proper, get into qualifying, and see how this first round of the season pans out. Oh, and I almost forgot, we actually did some R&D here at the track. We've got the minor cable assembly upgrade. Another weight reduction should be on the car in time for Melbourne. And we could be in for a pretty good home race, because we've also got a minor front downforce upgrade, the secondary wing flaps in development as well. Alrighty then, first qualifying session of the season, and we've already got problems with the car. We have a lubrication system fault, so that's great. Thanks guys.
Okay, I know you're eager to get out there, but I'm going to need you to be patient for a few minutes. We're just trying to zero in on an oil leak.
Well, now that the oil leak's been fixed, we can get into qualifying, and this was kind of weird, going out, and we did our first flying lap following Sebastian Vettel around the circuit. It's kind of weird how quickly you get used to the way things change, because yeah, seeing Vettel in the game is always feels like a strange thing now. But anyway, he moves out of the way, then dives it back up the inside, and we actually made a bit of contact there. Here's the onboard with Sebastian Vettel. That was the end of our lap, so I was pushing on for another one just to see what sort of you know, time I might be able to gain. Obviously that didn't quite go to plan, but that first lap did put us in P13, roundabout where I would have expected, with Yuki just in front. So pace to our teammate comparatively is pretty good, and we both get into Q2, which is, you know, the minimum I think is of what we should be expecting. Charles Leclerc tops at Q1 ahead of Sergio Perez. Interesting to see there. But further down we'll get to the drivers that were knocked out, and we've got the 2 Canadians at the back of the grid as well as their respective teammates knocked out. So both Astons, both Williams, as well as Zhou Guanyu not seeing Q2 today. So yeah, that brings Q1 to a close. No real surprises. I guess Zhou Guanyu maybe could have got a bit more out of that Sauber. We'll see what Bottas can do in Q2. But anyway, again, we'll just move straight on to the end of our flying lap, just because we already a fair way into this video. We do want to get to the race eventually, of course. So we actually go right at the end of that session and we go P7. So it was a very good Q2 for us. And Yuki in P13. So again, round about where the car is, I think we've outperformed the car a bit there. We actually are ahead of the McLarens there of Ricciardo and Lando Norris, and ahead of one of the Alpines as well, or both the Alpines. So yeah, we're best of the rest. That's the easiest way to say it. But anyway, knocked out, we've got the Haas's along with Yuki Tsunoda and Valtteri Bottas in the other Sauber, along with Fernando Alonso not making the cut. But Esteban Ocon just getting the better of his teammate and taking the final place inside the top 10. Unfortunately, in Q3, we absolutely looped it through turn 11 on our flyer, and yeah, that wasn't ever going to achieve a great lap time when you add a full revolution to the track distance. And yeah, that was basically qualifying done for us. I did try for another lap, but the pace just wasn't there. And it's going to be P10 for us, so a fairly anticlimactic Q3, unfortunately. Who knows what we could have done. I wouldn't, expect any more than P8, P9 at best. Maybe we could have beat Alonso. I don't know if he would have had the pace over the McLarens once they, get zoned in Q3.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Perez, Sainz, and Charles Leclerc. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Well, a bit of an unexpected grid order. Verstappen down in P4, so not the qualifying he would have wanted, but as Perez, who takes pole for Red Bull ahead of the 2 Ferraris, and then Hamilton, Norris doing a decent job, 3 Brits in a row with George Russell just behind the leading McLaren, so Russell maybe not quite getting his best lap together, and then Ocon doing a decent job to get up into P8 after just scraping through in P10 to get into Q3. So I think Ocon and Alpine will be pretty happy with that qualifying effort, and the 2 Aussies rounding out the top 10.
No more testing, no more practice. This is the real deal, and it's make or break here at round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. We go racing today around the 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit, with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Hamilton, Lando Norris, and Perez. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Russell, Ocon, Ricciardo, and the scientist. Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, and Magnussen. Mick Schumacher, Vettel, Guan Yu Zhou, and Alex Albon. Latifi and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. So here we are in 2022 at the start of another Formula 1 World Championship. It all begins here, the start of the next generation of Formula 1. With the end of the second turbocharged era, a new dawn begins. New regulations have been brought in to promote better racing, with the 2 big standout changes being the wheel size increase and the aerodynamics on the car itself. But will this result in us having a repeat fight for the Driver Championship? Will Mercedes retain their Constructors' title? We have lots to discuss then with Anthony Davidson, who's joined me in the commentary box for today's event.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Let's hope for some good racing today as well. We can't know at this point how competitive the teams are relative to each other, but hopefully nobody's able to run and hide. We want to see these drivers pushing to the limit all the way to the checkered flag.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Righty-go. Well, I did mess around with the strategy for quite a while, trying all the various combinations with all the tyres we have available. And in the end, I worked out that straightforward mediums to hards will be the way to go. So, yeah, maybe it would have been worth taking those soft tyres in qualifying and having another shot in Q3. But anyway, we'll do that from now on. But it was worth trying something different just to keep things mixed up. But anyway, it's time to go to the 5 red lights. Sergio Perez has been given a grid penalty, so he's starting down the order. We'll need to recover as it's lights out and away we go for the Bahrain Grand Prix. And it's a good start for us actually as we look down the inside of Esteban Ocon. And we're late on the brakes. We actually have a little peek down the inside of George Russell there. There's Perez around the outside. And Perez has managed to get away cleanly and has survived the lap 1 skirmish into turns 1, 2 and 3 as we're hard on the defense. And we go full lunge down the inside of not only Sergio Perez, we also have a think about Lando Norris. But we settle for 1 in the end there. And we sneak past Sergio Perez. But anyways, we work our way down the hill. We're struggling a little bit in the early phase of the race. Tyres not quite phased in at this point.
Right, let's focus now for the rest of the race.
But it's been a good start for us.
I've got information on Zhou for you. Okay, they're out of this race.
Oh, and Zhou Guanyu is out of the race. What has happened here to the Chinese driver's first race in Formula 1? And the wheels have fallen off the wagon already. What's going on with Zhou Guanyu? Oh, run straight into the back of the Williams car there. And the right front wheel is off. Here's the onboard looking rearward from Nicholas Latifi. I think Zhou was just not prepared for the field to stack up into turn 8. I know it's a hard one to call there. But yeah, that's a frustrating incident for Zhou Guanyu. Mick Schumacher gets involved as well. Here's the onboard with Lance Stroll. Stroll just gets it pulled up in time, so Stroll gets away with it. But yeah, tough moment for all involved there. Especially Zhou Guanyu, who makes it no further than turn 8. The virtual safety car is out at the moment, so that'll give us a chance to look at some replays. Here's the start, and it was a poor getaway for one of the Ferraris. I think that was Charles Leclerc, who was second on the grid. Did not get away well, and allowed Carlos Sainz to be free into the race lead, and has spoiled a potential Ferrari 1-2 in the early phase of this race. But there's still a long time to play out yet. But Carlos Sainz is away and clear ahead of Max Verstappen, who's still fighting it out with Charles Leclerc. And you know what? This battle briefly wasn't quite over, but Verstappen eventually settles that one and comes out on top with Charles Leclerc in third ahead of the 2 Mercedes cars there. Lando Norris in there as well, so good start for Lando Norris. But we also, of course, have Mick Schumacher coming into the pits, a new front wing going on to the Haas car after that opening lap drama with Zhou Guanyu. But thankfully for Mick Schumacher, he's still in the race and still in the hunt for, well, maybe not a decent result.
Virtual
But
safety car is ending. Maintain your pace until we get the green flags. VSC ending. Wait for the greens.
And as we get racing once more after the VSC, we've not timed that very well. We had a lot of time left on the Delta, and now Sergio Perez is going to go down the inside, and we're going to leave that door wide open. There's no point us fighting a Red Bull car, one of the fastest cars in the field, when you know, we're not even sure if we're going to get points in this race. Our fight is with the Alpines, the McLarens, maybe the Haas's, cars like that, not with the Red Bulls. And that's, you know, besides the fact that in a way he's kind of my teammate, so we're not going to be causing him too much trouble. But on board with Nicholas Latifi here, as there's a nice side-by-side battle going on up ahead. That's Valtteri Bottas looking down the inside. I think that must be Sebastian Vettel there, and they're going to continue running side-by-side all the way along the main straight. Looks like Bottas is going to get that move done on the inside line, Vettel late on the brakes, and Latifi with nowhere to go as Bottas was coming back onto the racing line. Latifi had already committed to following the Aston Martin through around the outside. What a shame. And that's a bit of front wing damage for Nicholas Latifi, as we now have to deal with the Alpine of Esteban Ocon charging down the inside. We're going to try and fight this one because there's no one in front that we need to worry about. So we're going to fight this as hard as we can. We show him the outside, and now Kevin Magnussen's getting involved, and we know how much K-Mag loves a fight, so hopefully they can scrap it out behind us, and that might give us a chance to get away and break DRS. But we'll see how that goes. Back to Nicholas Latifi, still surrounded by Aston Martins and Alfa Romeos, but I think it's Lance Stroll behind Latifi now. Latifi defends from his fellow Canadian driver and sends it down the inside of Valtteri Bottas. Goodness me, that was absolutely full send, and I think that was just to make a point, because Latifi then comes into the pit lane, and I assume that will be to replace that front wing. Williams crew get to work, and a new front nose goes on to the car, but that's rather put a dent in Latifi's hopes in this race. Oh, and look at this side-by-side and contact. Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon come together at turn 10. What happened there? Here's the onboard with Kevin Magnussen, and it was a lock-up from Kevin Magnussen. Drives straight into the side of Esteban Ocon, who was trying to hold it round the outside. And then they both get the power down and continue to race on. Here's the onboard from Fernando Alonso behind, and clear as it gets. Magnussen locks up, drives straight ahead into Esteban Ocon. That's an unfortunate incident between those two. And somehow Kevin Magnussen didn't make a pit stop after that, so clearly the front wing damage to that car not too bad, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some floor damage to Ocon's car, or potentially even both of them. But anyway, in the meantime, we've just seen Sergio Perez begin the fight back through the field, and that was a nice move on Lando Norris, as we go on board with Lance Stroll, who retires from the race with a mechanical failure. Was already running down the back.
Information on Ocon, they seem to have an issue.
Oh, and now Esteban Ocon has an issue. Goodness me, it's all popping off in this race. Here's the onboard with Esteban Ocon. It's actually a pretty serious issue, not a retirement, but Esteban Ocon in the final sector is just watching the world go by and has no speed in that Alpine, so there's clearly something very wrong with that car. A cycle through the pit lane does get things back in order, so just a Control-Alt-Delete in the pit box and he's off and racing once more, but that is an extra pit stop for Esteban Ocon after showing some pretty good pace early in this one. That's a shame. But as we continue to watch on, down the inside goes Max Verstappen on Carlos Sainz. This is for the race lead, and Verstappen can't quite get the move done. But the fight is on between the Red Bull and the Ferrari. And further into the stint, looks like Verstappen is finding some extra pace. Now on board with Fernando Alonso, who's the one putting the pressure on myself, although he seems to be getting a little bit lost at the end of the second sector into the final sector there. But eventually Alonso makes the move down the inside, misses it completely as we trip up on the curb, drift it through, and Daniel Ricciardo gets down the inside. We'll get the run on the exit though, and might be able to hold on to this as we're still drag racing, and we're actually going to cut away from that to have a look at a replay. What do you expect from F1 TV directors, as we see Fernando Alonso always coming to a stop off circuit there. It takes a very long time to get going, but you can see he was just in way too deep, couldn't get it stopped, wasn't even close to getting it turned. And then Ricciardo with a nice switchback. We'll see the onboard here with Ricciardo, how far back Ricciardo came from, as we were out so wide just trying to avoid Alonso. And then a great switchback to the inside for Ricciardo. Good traction out of the corner for us, kept us in the fight, but Ricciardo with some good straight line speed. Now we'll see the rest of this battle between myself and Ricciardo. We'll hold it round the outside, and we'll make the move on Daniel Ricciardo. Hold the position rather.
We expect you'll be noticing a bit of grip loss in the tyres around now, so just be careful.
Ricciardo though down the inside into the final corner, and yeah, quite clearly we just don't have the pace to fight with the McLarens. We can hold off an Alpine, but not a McLaren. So Ricciardo's off up the road as Charles Leclerc is slowing down. A lot of smoke coming out the back of that Ferrari engine. The field scrambles around him, and Charles Leclerc is out. Goodness me. This is a difficult race for a lot of teams.
Okay, car behind is Yuki. Okay, the gap behind is 0.9 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 24 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1:37.9.
And yeah, Yuki is catching us at the moment. He's going well. But anyway, as we continue to race on, it comes time for our pit stop. Into the box we come, then hopefully the crew can give us a nice stop and we can stay ahead of Alonso. It's not a nice stop though, and the time is ticking. The stop takes almost 5 seconds, and that's easily long enough for Alonso.
We had an issue attaching the left front wheel. I know it's not ideal, but let's try and put that behind us and get back into this race.
Easily enough for Alonso to get the jump. Here it is on replay. Left front wheel. They had a bit of trouble getting it on.
Up to speed now. Let's get some heat into those tyres.
That's all it took for Fernando Alonso to get the jump on us. And all the hard work we did defending from Fernando Alonso goes down the drain in the pit stop. That's a real shame. I think if we were able to stay ahead, Yuki could have probably got the overcut on us, given that these hard tyres feel absolutely awful on the outlap, and could have possibly jumped both of us, and you know, got a really good result for the team. But yeah, without myself ahead of Alonso, I'm not sure if Yuki will be able to get that overcut. But this is on board. This is Tsunoda now, and this is a different pit stop issue, as the left rear for Tsunoda has a problem. So both cars, both pit stops, AlphaTauri have struggled in the pit lane. What a shame. And that's going to mean that we are actually right with Yuki on the pit exit. Absolute disaster. Disastrous pit stops for both of us. We both lose out to Fernando Alonso. That's really frustrating. I thought, you know, we could you know, play the team game, hold up Alonso on the outlap, get Tsunoda through. We'll get you know, 8th and 9th for the team. But unfortunately those plans didn't come together. But here's Red Bull and Ferrari, and Verstappen's jump Sainz in the pit lane. Lightning work from the Red Bull crew, and Sainz, who will be absolutely fuming, just not even a meter away from the back of Verstappen, but it's enough for Verstappen to get the jump. That is infuriating for Carlos Sainz. That hard work he had defending earlier on, again, goes down the drain with a slower pit stop, as we see the Mercedes cars working their way through as well. So Sergio Perez leads yet to make a stop ahead of Verstappen, Sainz, and then it's the two Mercedes cars ahead of Lando Norris. Sebastian Vettel's out of sync. Kevin Magnussen is also out of sync. And then it's Ricciardo, Alonso, and then Yuki and myself. I think we are relatively at the back of the top 10 in terms of our real track position once those out of sync make their stops. But the thing, of course, is that Magnussen and Vettel will be quick at the end on a two-stop strategy, and yeah, we'll have to watch out for them, or not in the case of Vettel. I'm not sure what he's doing, but anyway, Sergio Perez will eventually come in from the race lead, and it'll be interesting to see where Sergio Perez emerges back on circuit, having got the benefit of the overcut. Like I said, the hard tyre is pretty slow in the outlap. Good work by the Red Bull crew. A very speedy pit stop for Sergio Perez. So where will the Mexican driver emerge relative to the Mercedes cars, the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, and of course to Max Verstappen, who now leads the way in this race. Here they come along the straight, but Verstappen's going to hold the lead ahead of Carlos Sainz, but Perez jumps to third ahead of the two Mercs. So the overcut has absolutely worked wonders for Sergio Perez. That is the power of it. That is what I was hoping Yuki Tsunoda would be able to do, but with the slow pit stop, there was no way that strategy could work. But Sergio Perez is onto the podium. So a great recovery drive by the Mexican so far in this race. As we continue on, to be honest, not too much going on in our world. We move ourselves up into 11th as Sebastian Vettel makes a pit stop and actually goes on to the softs.
Okay, so the car behind's just come in. They're now on the soft tyre. Soft tyres on the car behind. Vettel's behind, and the gap behind us is 3.4 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 2 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. And the time last lap was a 1 minute 36.5.
So Sebastian Vettel on soft tyres, but needs to make...
And gap to the car in front is 2.2 seconds.
Needs to make another stop, so he's not really in the same race as us. So hopefully we won't have to worry about him too much. So as we continue on, Kevin Magnussen makes his second stop, and that moves us up into the top 10. And where we are relatively in this race, I think everyone has made a pit stop by now, or has made their final stops, I should say, at this point. So yeah, we continue to race on then, and
okay, stand by. We see a problem our end, and we're looking into it.
well, I was about to say we're starting to catch up to Yuki Tsunoda,
Tyre condition
but
still looking good.
yeah, we've got a potential car issue, and sometimes that can lead to a full mechanical failure in just the first race of the season. We really don't need to be burning up any power unit components with a DNF, so hopefully we can avoid whatever this issue is, but it's always a scary thought. We're just racing on now.
Touch wood, it seems like the fault has resolved itself.
Thank goodness. A near miss there, and you know, that is something you have no control over. Once you hear that message, once there is a potential car issue, there's no getting out of it. If it's going to end the race, it's going to end the race, and there's nothing you can do from the driver's seat other than just sit in suspense for you know, 30 seconds to a minute while the team figure out what the issue is. But down the inside goes Sergio Perez on Carlos Sainz, the Mexican driver, trying to make it a 1-2 for the Red Bull team as they fight side by side through turns 1, 2 and 3. Carlos Sainz not giving this one up, and Sainz gets the switchback down the inside, looks to the outside once again, and I don't think he's going to be able to keep the fight going around there. Sergio Perez has got the inside line, but Sainz with some almighty traction on the outside. Sainz is fighting hard in this race against the Red Bulls. He let Verstappen go in the pit lane. Sainz is not going to let Sergio Perez go as easily. Perez on the inside line through turn 8, but Sainz still fighting this one on the outside. This is a mega scrap between these two. It's been going on for more than half a lap at this point as they work their way through the middle sector, and a few have come unstuck here fighting too hard. Fernando Alonso, Kevin Magnussen, Esteban Ocon have all come a cropper there, but not Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. They continue to race side by side all the way up through turn 11, and that's a very difficult corner to be able to do that. Now through turn 12, the right-hander, and it looks like Carlos Sainz is going to have to concede. Sergio Perez finally gets through after 2 full sectors of running side by side with Carlos Sainz. What a mega scrap between those two. Well done Sergio Perez, well done Carlos Sainz for getting through that whole sequence without coming together. And Sergio Perez finally gets that move done. On board now with Sebastian Vettel, being a little bit less fortunate through turns 9 and 10, runs wide there on the exit on the runoff, but no harm done there. We continue to race on though, and Sebastian Vettel is looking pretty keen to get past us, and there's not really too much we can do here. Vettel with the DRS, we have a look to the inside, we find the pit wall there as we look now to the outside, wheel to wheel into turn 1, we're later on the brakes, and we get back through on Sebastian Vettel, so a tough fight, but we hold on ahead of the Aston Martin. I'm trying to keep him away from our teammate, but as we continue on, Vettel eventually comes in for his final stop, and that leaves us free to fight Yuki Tsunoda because we do have a massive gap to the car behind. So with a few laps to go in this race, we'll make the move on our teammate, and we'll even be able to get clear back onto the racing line as we head into turn 1, and that puts us up into 9th position. We hold 9th and 10th as the AlphaTauri team, so above expectations for both cars, really, I think it's fair to say. So I think we're going to go home pretty happy to both be in the points, but we put Nicholas Latifi a lap down. It's been a tough race for the Williams driver, getting caught up in that lap 1 incident and never really had the chance to recover. No safety cars in this race, just that VSC.
Okay, this is your final lap of the race.
But yeah, last lap of the race, and we just need to bring it home. Out in front, it was smooth sailing for Max Verstappen after the pit stop. The crew doing the hard work in this one to get him through, and we are actually going to let Yuki Tsunoda through before the final corner, just so we can send it back up the inside. And we'll get the move done on Yuki Tsunoda. And I'm going to be honest, the only reason I did that was, to get a screenshot for the thumbnail. I was meant to take a screenshot the first time we passed our teammate, but I just completely forgot. So yeah, that's literally the only reason I let him past, just to re-overtake him there. But I was pretty confident we could get back up the inside. It was clean, there was no contact, we come across the line.
Right, race over, take care of the car on the way in.
And it's a double points finish for us here at AlphaTauri. Awesome race from both of us today. Sebastian Vettel gets the driver of the day. Goodness me.
That's a fantastic team effort then to secure victory here in the desert. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
So it's race victory for Max Verstappen and a 1-2 for the Red Bull team, with Sergio Perez recovering to finish second, and then Carlos Sainz stands on the podium third for Ferrari.
Let's have a look then at the driver's standings. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Sebastian Vettel would definitely be my first choice. He showed up a lot of the drivers out on the track today and didn't show any signs of slowing down.
Let's move on to the constructors, and Red Bull take over as championship leaders. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
Well, there we have it then, the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Goodness me, what a race that was. Plenty of fighting up and down the field. Don't ask me how Sergio Perez managed to get a grid penalty in the first round, by the way. But as always, let's take a little run through the finishing order, and this will of course also be the championship order. As well, of course, being the first round. So, like I said, Max Verstappen ahead of Sergio Perez, Red Bull 1-2, then it was Carlos Sainz, and then the two Mercedes cars, Lewis Hamilton ahead of George Russell. Lando Norris makes it 3 Brits in a row ahead of Fernando Alonso, who will be very happy, I think, with P7 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, myself, and Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the top 10. Then it was Kevin Magnussen, just missing out ahead of Sebastian Vettel, Esteban Ocon, and Valtteri Bottas, finishing down in P14. So the hype around Sauber not really playing out in this first round. And it's also worth mentioning that the next 3 outside of the points, Magnussen, Vettel, and Ocon, all made 2 stops. So clearly that 2-stop strategy was not the way to go. Everyone inside the top 10 did a 1-stop strategy, I believe. So yeah, that really does show it was not the way to go, though of course in the case of Ocon that was a very much forced second pit stop, or first pit stop as the case was. But as I said, championship standings are just the same order that I just read out. So let's take a look at the constructors then. And after this first round, it is of course Red Bull leading the way on 44 points, 22 points for Mercedes, of course getting both cars across the line, making a big difference there. Ferrari sit on 15 points, just 3 ahead of McLaren on 12 points. Alpine have 6, we have 3, and then everyone else yet to score. Haas, Aston Martin, Alfa Romeo, and Williams rounding out the team's championship order. But yeah, definitely an interesting first round of the season. A few surprises. Unfortunately for Zhou Guanyu, the first round only lasted half a lap, and in terms of any meaningful running, it only lasted a couple of laps for Nicholas Latifi. Lance Stroll and Charles Leclerc also with mechanical failures in the race. So yeah, it was a tough race for a lot of the competitors out there, but it's a long season to still play out in front of us, so there's still plenty of time for things to change. So yeah, with that said, I will hand over to live commentary me for the rest of the video.
Alright, so I'm trying something new. I'm going to do the end of the video in live commentary so I can talk about the R&D and such things that I'm doing as I'm doing it. But anyway, not too much to talk about there on the Acclaim screen, so let's head back to HQ. And nothing from our engineer. A short turnaround until the next round in Saudi Arabia, so I can't imagine we'll be doing too much. Hi, the team have been investigating the cause of that ERS fault you ran into on the track. We should consider investing in powertrain upgrades. Okay, so despite having an ERS fault, he's suggesting that we invest in the power unit, not the reliability, which is very strange. Oh, and that's given us 200 resource points. Is there anything we can do with that? Okay, so we've got 18% wear after one race on our first gearbox. That sounds like a lot. And it is, I believe, our most worn individual component. I mean, we've got 1% wear on our control electronics, so that'll last all season. 7% on our turbocharger, so that'll last about 7 races. I think you want to change them when they're about 50% worn. So that'll probably be just about okay. Maybe would need to take 1 grid penalty late in the season, but with some reliability upgrades later on, I think it'll be okay. So 3% times 22 is 66, so halfway through the season that'll only be 33% worn, so that's fine. 5%, that'll be fine. 2%, that'll be fine. And 9%, that might not be fine. So I think our biggest area of concern is the gearbox. Where would 9% put us? That'll be like 5, we'll call it 6 races, because we can conserve the pieces. So yeah, the biggest area of concern will be the gearbox and the main ICE. Yeah, let's definitely invest in the gearbox, because that's the last thing you want is some kind of gearbox failure. That's all we can do in terms of R&D. Let's just fast forward through the time until the next race. Absolutely. Oh, we've got a Pirelli hot lap challenge.
And that's actually going to have to wait until next time. My original plan was to do it now, but given that it is in Saudi Arabia, it makes more sense to put it in the next episode. So for now, that is all for this one. So I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. And other than that, I will see you in the next one, and goodbye.